Dr. Mark leaned back in his chair, watching the flickering holographic display in the council room as Zarok, the Xenian leader, stared at him with wide, violet eyes. Behind Zarok stood a few other Xenians, their greenish-blue bioluminescent skin pulsing faintly, indicating their curiosity. "So, let me get this straight," Zarok said, his tone cautious. "Humans celebrate fear?" "Well, not just fear," Dr. Mark replied, stifling a chuckle. "It's a little more complex. Halloween is about costumes, spooky decorations, trick-or-treating for candy, and having fun. Fear, costumes, candy." Zarok tilted his head, clearly trying to piece the puzzle together. "Do you invite spirits into your homes in exchange for sweets?" "No," Mark laughed. "It's not real fear or spirits. It's all pretend. It's a chance to get creative, dress up as something scary or funny, and share the experience with others. It's a tradition back on Earth." One of Zarok's colleagues, Viola, raised her hand, her glowing eyes narrowing. "Why would anyone want to look scary? Shouldn't you want to avoid fear?" Mark nodded. "I get it. Sounds strange. But it's all in good fun. You pretend to be something spooky, and everyone plays along. Trust me, you'll enjoy it." The Xenians exchanged skeptical glances, their bioluminescence flickering. Zarok finally spoke. "If this is a human bonding ritual, we will attempt it. But what are these costumes? Battle armor? Camouflage?" Mark grinned, already imagining the chaos this misunderstanding would bring. "Not quite. I'll explain costumes later. Just know that Halloween is a chance to be creative, share some laughs, and maybe give yourself a little scare." The following day, the human settlement on Xenon was abuzz with activity. Families carved pumpkins, draping their homes with cobwebs and glowing lights, while others set up elaborate displays featuring skeletons, witches, and spooky sound effects. The Xenians observed the preparations with a mix of awe and confusion. Zarok stood next to Dr. Mark, eyeing a grinning jack-o'-lantern with suspicion. "What is the purpose of this glowing fruit?" Mark laughed. "It's a pumpkin. We carve it to look scary and put a light inside. It's a tradition." Zarok frowned. "Is this meant to frighten intruders? It seems ineffective." "No, it's just for decoration. It's part of the fun." Nearby, children dressed as ghosts and monsters ran past, clutching bags of candy. Viola watched them with wide eyes. "Why do they carry those sacks?" "They're for candy. During trick-or-treating, kids go door to door saying trick or treat to collect sweets." Viola nodded slowly, her glowing skin pulsing brighter. "Ah, I see. A tactical operation to secure food supplies." "Not exactly," Mark said, suppressing a grin. "Let's just say it's a way to celebrate generosity, with sugar." When Mark finally introduced the Xenians to costumes, things took a hilariously bizarre turn. "Costumes are simple," he explained, holding up a witch's hat. "You dress up as something spooky or fun. It can be anything, a ghost, a vampire, even a pumpkin." The Xenians didn't seem convinced. Zarok held up the hat, frowning. "This will not instill fear." "It's not about real fear," Mark clarified. "It's about pretending." But the Xenians weren't satisfied with simple hats or cloaks. Within hours, they had engineered holoprojectors to create hyper-realistic costumes. Zarok strode into the settlement later that day, wearing a holographic suit that transformed him into a towering skeletal warrior with glowing red eyes. "Am I sufficiently frightening now?" Zarok asked, his voice echoing ominously thanks to a built-in voice synthesizer. Mark burst out laughing. "You're terrifying. Maybe tone it down. This is supposed to be fun, not a horror movie." Another Xenian appeared as a floating, multi-eyed creature that shimmered with an otherworldly glow. When a child ran past and squealed in delight, the Xenian turned to Mark, confused. The Earthling did not flee in terror. "Did I fail?" No, that's good," Mark said, still chuckling. "It means they like your costume." The Xenians nodded, but their glowing skin betrayed their doubt. Clearly, they had a lot to learn about human traditions. Max the Labrador wagged his tail furiously as he watched the preparations. "What's all this?" he barked, his talking collar translating his excitement into a cheerful voice. "Looks amazing. I want to join." Dr. Mark scratched behind Max's ears. "It's Halloween, Max. We're dressing up, decorating, and going trick-or-treating." "What's trick-or-treating?" Max asked, his tail thumping against the floor. "You go door to door, say trick-or-treat, and people give you candy." Max's ears perked up. "People just give you treats? This is the best day ever. I need a costume, something heroic." Nearby, Whiskers the cat yawned dramatically, stretching out on a pumpkin. "Please, dogs may enjoy groveling for treats, but I'll show you how a real predator commands attention." "Oh, you're joining too?" Mark asked with a grin. Whiskers licked her paw nonchalantly. "Of course. Someone has to maintain a sense of dignity around here." The talking animals quickly embraced the Halloween spirit. Max decided on a superhero costume, donning a small holographic cape that fluttered as he moved. "I'm Max the Magnificent," he declared, prancing proudly around the settlement. Whiskers, ever the diva, opted for a ghostly ensemble. She used a tiny holoprojector to create a swirling, translucent sheet that made her look like a floating apparition. "Boo," she said flatly, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I'm terrifying." When the Xenians saw Whiskers in her ghost costume, one of them yelped and ducked behind a pumpkin. "The Earth creature has achieved spectral form," they cried. Whiskers smirked. "Finally, someone appreciates my work." As the animals strutted around in their costumes, the Xenians revealed their own. Zarok's skeletal warrior suit was joined by other equally outlandish creations. One Xenian turned themselves into a flaming dragon, while another became a glowing shadow that seemed to suck in light around it. Max barked excitedly at the dragon. "Cool costume. Can I chase you?" The dragon turned, startled. "This is a fearsome form, Earth Beast. You should tremble." Max tilted his head. "Why? It's awesome. Let's play fetch." Meanwhile, Whiskers inspected the shadowy Xenian, circling it with a critical eye. "Too much drama," she said dismissively. "Try subtlety." Despite their elaborate costumes, the Xenians were hilariously unprepared for Earth-style scares. A human child dressed as a vampire ran up to Zarok, bearing fake fangs. "I want to suck your blood," the child said with a giggle. Zarok shrieked, stumbling backward. "A vampiric predator. Humans never warned us of these creatures." Max rolled on the ground, laughing. "It's a kid. Relax, Zarok." Whiskers, watching the chaos, muttered, "This is going to be the best Halloween ever." The sun had set on Xenon, casting a soft blue glow across the human settlement as the Halloween festivities began in earnest. Houses were lit with holographic jack-o'-lanterns, glowing cobwebs, and spooky sound effects, while families gathered candy bowls and prepared for an influx of trick-or-treaters. Zarok adjusted his holographic skeletal warrior costume and turned to Dr. Mark. "You've explained the ritual clearly. We frighten the inhabitants, and they reward us with candy." "Not quite," Mark corrected, laughing. "You knock on the door, say trick or treat, and people give you candy because it's fun." Zarok frowned. "So there is no trick." "Only if they don't give you candy, but that almost never happens." "I see." Zarok straightened, his bioluminescent skin flickering with determination. "Then we shall perform admirably." Viola, dressed as a shimmering banshee with glowing, ghostly tendrils, tilted her head. "Why do humans insist on doing this at night? The darkness increases risk." Mark grinned. "That's the point. The dark makes it spooky." The Xenians exchanged nervous glances, but followed the humans down the illuminated streets, their costumes glowing faintly in the shadows. Max the Labrador bounded ahead, his holographic superhero cape trailing behind him. "Trick or treat," he barked, tail wagging furiously. "I want bones, big ones, and candy." "Candy isn't for dogs," Mark reminded him. Max paused, confused. "What's Halloween for, then?" "Fun, Max. Remember? Whiskers, gliding gracefully in her ghost costume, rolled her eyes. Honestly, Max, it's about the experience, not the snacks. You stole candy from the last bowl, Max pointed out. Whiskers sniffed. That was quality control. The first house they visited belonged to the McAllisters, a human family known for their elaborate decorations. As the group approached, a motion-activated skeleton jumped out, cackling wildly. Max barked excitedly, jumping in circles. "Amazing! Do it again!" Viola shrieked and hid behind Zarok. "The skeleton moved! It is hostile!" Zarok tried to maintain his composure, but shuffled back nervously. "Is this part of the ritual?" "It's a decoration," Mark assured them, still laughing. "Just wait until you see the candy." When the door opened, the McAllisters greeted the group with wide smiles. "Happy Halloween," they said, holding out a large bowl of candy. "Trick or treat," Max barked, his tail wagging so hard it smacked Zarok in the leg. Viola hesitated, looking at the candy suspiciously. "Do we select a piece, or are we assigned one?" "Pick whichever you want," Mark encouraged. Viola gingerly took a single piece of candy, holding it up like a precious artifact. Zarok, meanwhile, leaned forward, peering into the bowl. "This is the reward for participation?" he asked, selecting a handful of brightly wrapped treats. "Exactly," Mark said. Zarok straightened. "Fascinating. Humans reward compliance with sugar." Whiskers, uninterested in the philosophical analysis, hopped onto the porch and deftly snagged a piece of chocolate with her paw. "Thank you," she purred, before darting back into the shadows. The group continued door to door, with Max enthusiastically announcing his presence at every house and Zarok attempting to perfect his candy-retrieving technique. But things quickly spiraled into chaos when the group encountered other trick-or-treaters. A human child dressed as a werewolf howled dramatically, running past the group. Zarok stumbled back, alarmed. "The Earth predators are active." "It's a costume," Mark reminded him, barely suppressing his laughter. Moments later, a group of older kids wearing alien costumes approached. One boy wore a glowing green mask and waved his arms menacingly. "We come in peace," he declared, mimicking an old sci-fi movie. Viola gasped, her glowing tendrils flickering. "That's not Xenian anatomy. They've misunderstood our form entirely." "It's supposed to be funny," Mark explained, but the Xenians remained unconvinced. As the night progressed, the Xenians' over-the-top costumes and advanced holoprojectors failed to prepare them for the surprises lurking around every corner. At one house, a teenager dressed as Dracula opened the door with a dramatic flourish, baring his fake fangs. "I want to suck your blood," he intoned, holding out the candy bowl. Zarok froze, his glowing violet eyes wide with terror. "Vampiric creatures? Are they part of the human population?" "No," Mark said, choking on laughter. "It's just a costume. Relax." Viola wasn't convinced. "How can you be certain? Their dental structure seems optimized for consumption." The Dracula impersonator, enjoying the confusion, hissed theatrically, sending Viola scurrying behind Zarok. Later, as they approached a dimly lit house with a fog machine billowing mist across the lawn, Max darted ahead, barking excitedly. "Let's go! Treats are waiting!" He leapt onto the porch, his holographic cape fluttering dramatically, and turned to face the group. "I am Max the Magnificent, defender of Halloween!" Zarok yelped, stumbling back. "The Earth Beast has transformed into a combat form." Max tilted his head, confused. "What? No, I'm just being awesome." Viola peeked out from behind Zarok. "Can the transformation be reversed?" The final scare came from Whiskers, who had perfected her ghostly act. Perched on a glowing pumpkin, she activated her holoprojector, creating the illusion of a floating sheet with piercing green eyes. "Meow!" she wailed, her voice amplified by a small speaker. One of the Xenians screamed, dropping their candy bag. "It's an Earth Phantom! Retreat!" Whiskers hopped down, smug. "I don't even need a costume to be scary. This is just extra." The culmination of the evening was the Halloween costume contest, held in the town square. Humans, Xenians, and talking animals gathered under the glowing decorations, showing off their creations. Max and Whiskers teamed up for a dramatic performance, with Max barking rhythmically while Whiskers added haunting meows. The humans cheered, while the Xenians studied the musical ritual with fascination. Zarok's skeletal warrior costume included a dramatic light show, while Vila's ghostly tendrils extended outward, creating an eerie spectacle. Another Xenian, wearing a black hole costume, accidentally activated their holoprojector, causing nearby candy bowls to be sucked toward them. Just as the judges prepared to announce the winners, a strange creature wandered into the square. It was large, with glowing eyes and spindly limbs, resembling a classic Earth monster. "Wow, that costume is incredible," a human said. The Xenians, however, froze. "That is no costume," Zarok whispered. The creature let out a guttural roar, sending Xenians scrambling and humans applauding. Max wagged his tail. "Hey, buddy, want to play fetch?" Whiskers flicked her tail. "I've seen scarier shadows." The creature, realizing it wasn't welcome, slinked away, leaving behind a trail of confusion and laughter. As the festivities wound down, the humans and Xenians gathered to share candy and stories. Zarok sighed, adjusting his costume. "Halloween is perplexing, but it is enjoyable." Mark grinned. "Told you you'd like it." Max, sitting on a pile of candy, barked, "Best day ever. Can we do this every week?" Whiskers, licking her paw, added, "I was clearly the star of the night." Zarok nodded thoughtfully. "Next year, we shall enhance our holograms to become even more terrifying." Mark laughed. "You Xenians sure know how to commit." The day after the chaotic trick-or-treating, Zarok and his team of Xenians decided it was time to outshine the humans' Halloween efforts. If Halloween was about being spooky and creative, Xenians had an edge: advanced technology. The Xenians gathered near the settlement square, their glowing skin flickering with excitement as they set up holoprojectors, sound synthesizers, and advanced holographic emitters. Vila adjusted her holoprojector, her voice full of pride. "Our creations will redefine Halloween. Humans will tremble at the magnificence of our spookiness." Dr. Mark, observing from a distance, was already suppressing laughter. "I'm sure it'll be unforgettable." Their first creation was a holographic haunted house. From the outside, it appeared to be a floating, dilapidated mansion with flickering lights and ominous shadows. Inside, the projections showed spectral figures floating through walls and a ghostly banquet table with dishes that screamed when touched. The Xenians gathered to admire their work. "This will surely frighten even the bravest humans," Zarok declared. However, when the first group of humans entered, their reaction was unexpected. "Whoa, this is so cool," one kid said, poking at a holographic ghost. "Can I touch the floating dishes?" A projection of a howling banshee flew past, and the humans cheered. "Great effects," someone shouted. Zarok frowned. "Why are they applauding? Are they not terrified?" Mark patted his shoulder. "Welcome to Halloween. People love to be spooked, but they enjoy it." As the night progressed, the Xenians' haunted house became a hit, though not always for the intended reasons. One holoprojector glitched, turning a horrifying ghost into a dancing alien doing an awkward jig. Humans found it hilarious, while the Xenians panicked, scrambling to fix the error. A spectral figure was programmed to scream at random intervals, but it scared Vila so badly she knocked over one of the projectors, accidentally creating a giant holographic pumpkin that rolled through the settlement, scattering children and animals alike. Max, ever curious, ran into the haunted house and barked at every ghost, trying to play fetch with the holograms. "You're supposed to be scared," Vila cried. "I'm having too much fun," Max barked back, wagging his tail. The highlight of the night was the Halloween costume contest, a tradition Mark had decided to introduce to bring everyone together. The square was filled with humans, Xenians, and talking animals, all eager to show off their creativity. Mark stepped up to the stage, holding a microphone. "All right, everyone. Welcome to Xenon's first ever Halloween costume contest. We have 3 categories: humans, Xenians, and our furry friends. Let's see what you've got." The first contestant was a human child, dressed as a tiny astronaut, complete with a glowing jetpack. The crowd clapped enthusiastically. Next, Xarok stepped forward in his skeletal warrior costume, which had been upgraded to include flickering fire effects and an echoing voice. "I am the embodiment of fear," he announced, his voice booming. The humans cheered, and a kid in the front row shouted, "You look awesome!" "Awesome?" Xarok muttered, stepping down. "Why does no one scream?" Max and Whiskers were up next. Max, still in his superhero costume, struck a dramatic pose. "I am Max the Magnificent, defender of bones and chaser of shadows." He wagged his tail furiously, earning a round of applause. Whiskers, draped in her ghost costume, slinked across the stage with dramatic flair. She paused in the middle, letting out an eerie, echoing mew, amplified by her tiny speaker. One of the Xenians gasped. "The Earth Predator is performing a summoning ritual." "Thank you," Whiskers purred, stepping down with a smug look. Midway through the contest, a Xenian contestant accidentally activated their black hole costume, causing nearby candy bowls to slide toward them. The judges, impressed by the unintended effect, awarded them Most Creative. Just when the contest seemed to be winding down, a strange creature wandered into the square. It was large, with glowing red eyes, a gaping mouth, and spindly limbs that clattered as it moved. "Wow, that's an incredible costume," one human said, clapping. The Xenians, however, froze. "That is no costume," Xarok whispered. The creature let out a guttural roar, sending the Xenians scrambling in every direction. Max, unfazed, barked happily. "Hey, buddy, want to play?" Whiskers narrowed her eyes. "I've seen scarier in my reflection." The creature, confused by the mixed reactions, slinked away into the shadows, leaving behind a trail of chaos and laughter. As the festivities wound down, the humans, Xenians, and animals gathered in the square to share candy and laugh about the night's events. Max sat proudly on a pile of candy wrappers, his superhero cape slightly askew. "Best night ever," he barked. "Can we do this every week?" Whiskers, perched on a glowing pumpkin, licked her paw nonchalantly. I was clearly the highlight of the evening. Everyone was captivated. Mark, holding a cup of steaming cider, turned to Xarok. "So, what do you think of Halloween?" Xarok's bioluminescent skin flickered as he considered. "It is perplexing. Humans celebrate fear, but not in a way that causes actual terror. It is a contradiction, yet it fosters joy." "That's Halloween for you," Mark said with a grin. Viola approached, still adjusting her flickering banshee costume. "Next year, we must improve our holoprojectors to create more convincing specters. And we'll need better candy management protocols," Xarok added, glaring at Max, who was chewing noisily on a bone he'd received as a treat. Mark laughed. "You Xenians are already planning next year's Halloween. That's the spirit." As the group sat together under the glowing decorations, a sense of camaraderie filled the air. Humans, Xenians, and animals alike had come together to share a tradition, and though it hadn't gone perfectly, it had been unforgettable. Whiskers yawned, stretching lazily. "Well, I suppose even humans can get some things right." Max thumped his tail happily. "This was the best day ever. Let's do it again tomorrow." Xarok stood, his skeletal warrior costume flickering. "Next year, we shall redefine Halloween. Fear itself will tremble at our creations." Mark shook his head, laughing. "I can't wait to see what you come up with." As the decorations dimmed and the crowd dispersed, the first Halloween on Xenon ended not with fear, but with laughter, friendship, and the promise of even greater chaos next year.